Good morning. Today our topic is British policy and impacts. So in the last chapter, that is traders to rulers, so we have studied that how the British gradually gained the political control over the India and established their control over the different parts of the country. And most parts of the India were either directly or the indirectly controlled by the British through their various policies. But in this chapter, you will be able to understand that apart from the pro-Western education policy, the British made administrative decisions which affected the Indian's economic structure. The main aim of the British government was to establish the India as an agricultural supplier of cheap raw materials to the industries in England. So you will also be able to analyze the impact of the British rule on the native traders, peasants and the artisans. Okay, so first topic is the British economic policies. The economic policies adopted by the British government in India brought many changes in the land revenue system. So the various economic policies that was adopted or the introduced by the British government in India that brought many changes in the land revenue system, trade, agriculture and industry. The aim of these policy was only to promote the British economic interest in India. So all of these policies are designed only to promote the British interest in India. When the British company took the charge of the government in India in its own hand, so when the charge of the Indian government was in the hand of the British people, they appointed or it appointed its own officials to collect the revenue from the peasants or the farmers. So English people appointed all of their own officials to collect the revenue from the farmers. It also made a new policy of collecting revenue. So even they also introduced a new policy for collecting the revenue. As a result, the village panchayats lost their authority on the village people. So because of the introduction of new policy of collecting revenue, the village panchayat lost their authority, means their power on the village people. The revenue was thus taken in terms of cash payment. And what was that new policy? Now the revenue was collected in terms of cash instead of any kind of the produce. Consequently, the farmers began to produce only those crops which had a high demand in the market. So because of the introduction of that new revenue policy, now the farmers are required to pay the land revenue in terms of cash nor in terms of produce. So what was the effect of that? Now the farmers started to produce only those crops which has a high demand in the market, so that by selling that crops they can earn the money. The fine machine made cloth of the Manchester reached to the village market, and next thing was the machine made cloth were reached to the village market, and as a result the cottage industry was also ruined, means the cottage industry was destroyed, and the village self-sufficiency suffered a setback, and there was a drawback or the limitation on which point? Village self-sufficiency. After the Battle of Buxar in 1764, so after that battle, the company got the privilege. Got the privilege means company got the rights for collecting the land revenue in the form of hard money. Okay, that right is known as Diwani. So these are the British economic policies, and their ultimate aim was to promote the British interest in India. Next, drain of wealth. Drain means when wealth is taken out of the India, it is known as drain of wealth. Early Indian nationalists like the Dadabhai Naroji RC that had expected the Britain to undertake the capitalistic industrialization in India. So these early nationalists, they all believed that there should be capitalistic industrialization in India, but all these nationalists were deeply disillusioned. Disillusioned means they were disappointed with the result of the colonial agriculture and the industrial policies. Means these nationalists were highly disappointed from the all of the policies of the British government. Consequently, they formulated a strong economic critique of, so because of that disappointment, they created a strong economic critique of colonialism in the late 19th century. Dadabhai Naroji put forward the drain of wealth theory. So this is important. Drain of wealth theory was given by the Dadabhai Naroji. Poverty in India, according to them, poverty means garibi, that is the reason for that poverty in India, according to Dadabhai Naroji, was the result of steady drain of Indian wealth into the brain. So the only reason for the poverty at that time was due to the drain of the Indian wealth into the brain as a result of the, and what was the cause of that drain? That was the British policy. This drain occurred through the interest that India paid for the, so here they have mentioned the various ways in which the Indian money is drained. That is the, this drain occurred through the interest that the India paid for the foreign debts of the East India Company. So first way, that is the payment of the foreign debts, company military expenditure. This is the second way. Granted returns on the foreign investment in railways. So they were getting the granted returns, means payback from their foreign investment in the railway and the other infrastructure. Importing all the stationery from the England, and home charges paid for the Secretary of the State in Britain, and all the salaries and the pensions and the training cost of military and the civilian staff employed by the British state to rule India. So these are the different ways how the wealth of the India was drained out. So there are a lot of expenditure on the military goods, and they were giving the granted return on the foreign investment on any kind of the infrastructure, and payment of all kind of salaries, pensions and the training cost of the military and the civilian staff. Okay, so this is the drain of wealth. Next, the revenue system. In order to bring stability in the agriculture, now they wanted to stabilize the agriculture. The British introduced the various land settlements, and one of them is permanent land settlement. Permanent settlement was introduced by the Cornwallis in the year of 1793. According to it, the zamindar of an estate became its owner as well. So according to this permanent settlement, the zamindar of the estate can become its owner as well. He was required to pay a fixed amount of revenue to the government every year within a specified time. So what was the condition? So he can become the member, he can become the owner as well, but he was required to pay a fixed amount of land revenue to the government every year. The zamindars under this system had a much better position than the jagirdars of the Mughal period. So now the zamindar acquired much better position as compared to the jagirdars of the Mughal period. Next, what are the various impacts of that permanent settlement? So permanent settlement ensured the regular income to the company. So what was the first consequence of that permanent settlement? This ensured a regular income to the company. Second, it was created a new class of the landlords. So there was an introduction of new class of landlords which was very loyal to the Britishers. In 1799, the landlords were empowered to evict. Power to evict means they can evict the tenants and also to confiscate their property. Confiscate means to take or seize their property for the non-payment of their dues to the landlord. So there was a new provision in the 1799 that the landlords can evict the tenants or seize their property for the non-payment of their dues. This resulted in making a large section of the tenants disposed of their land. So what was the consequences of that provision? This led to the making a large section of the tenants disposed their lands, particularly when their crops failed. So in case of the failure of crops, they had to dispose of their land. The number of landless laborers that formed a large section of the village population increased. So the result was that the landless laborers that constitute the major portion of the village population increased. This is the third impact of the permanent settlement. Next, in the long run, permanent settlement benefited the landlords more than the government. So this system give the benefits more to the landlord as compared to the government by increasing the area under cultivation. How this system benefited more the landlords? Because the landlords increased the area for their cultivation. The landlords collection of rent went up because by increasing the area under cultivation, their rent collection went up, but the amount that they had to pay to government remained the same because that amount is the fixed. So that amount will remain the same, but the tax collection or the rent collection collected by the landlords went up. So in this way, this system benefited the landlords more. Next, there is a Royatwari system. Royatwari system was prevalent in most of the southern India, being the standard system of the Madras Presidency. So this system was devised by the Captain Alexander Read and the Thomas Murno and introduced by the later when he was governor of Madras. So this is the introduction of Royatwari system. Under this system, revenue was collected directly from the each individual cultivator by government agents. So in this system, revenue was collected from the each cultivator by government agent. For this purpose, all holdings were measured. So first of all the land holdings were measured, then assessed, and according to the crop potential, means how much crop can be grown on that holding. So measurement of that was done and the actual cultivation. So according to that measurement and assessment, the revenue was collected directly from the cultivator by the government agents. The advantage of this system were the elimination of middleman. There was no middleman in this system because revenue was directly collected by the government agent from the cultivators. And on an assessment of the tax of the land actually cultivated. Okay, so the advantage of this system was the elimination of middlemen who often oppressed villagers, and an assessment of the tax on land actually cultivated, not merely occupied. So tax was assessed on the actual cultivation, not according to the area of land. So offsetting these advantages were the cost of detailed measurement of the individual collections. So first benefit, that is cost of detailed measurement and of the individual collections. The government itself became a big zamindar. So what were the consequences of this system? The government became a big zamindar. The corrupt government agents started exploiting the poor peasants. So this was the next consequences, that the government agents that they started exploiting the poor peasants.